Islam, 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 and welcome to Sisters Standing on Law. This is your host, Anita L., along with my co-host, RVBey.
Islam, peace and love.
Islam. All right. Well, today's broadcast, actually, I wanted to, continue with our discussion on the secret teachings of John. However, I didn't get that. We had that as an option, and then we actually did this candid conversation about 2 weeks ago that we were going to replay and then have discussion about it. But for some reason, we can't get it to play, so therefore we can't upload it so that it can play. So that got changed. So we got this.
That was an awesome conversation, though.
It was. Yes.
It really was.
It was. And you know what? I'm going to figure out a way to get it somehow, some way, because we had some really good things that needs to be.
I really hope that you can, or someone, or whatever, can figure out how to get it down, because it shows that it's corrupted, but you can see the audio,
Yeah.
So somehow. But before you get to what you're going to get into, because I got to find something real quick, I wanted to add something else that I forgot to tell you, but it's real short, and I just wanted to address it, but I got to find it real quick. It's real short and sweet.
All right.
You can go ahead and introduce what we're going to be getting into and why.
Well, I can do that. And
I just want to add this thing, because when we get into this conversation that we're about to have now, we're going to be rolling. It's going to be rolling, so I wanted to stick this in before we got there.
Well, let me just say this. For those internet listeners, just want to let you know the chat room is open. So it took me a minute to get in there, but I finally did. So the chat room is open. And, let me go ahead and just introduce what today's topic is going to be all about. And it's, of course, it's in conjunction with the final call theory. And it's entitled Birth Certificate. Hold on a minute. Let me see. Birth certificates and other instruments. Are they contracts? What are the elements of a lawful contract? And mothers, this lesson is for you, as you are the bringers of the light. So basically, that's all I said, because we're just trying to, what we're intending. Well, Roz got an email, and it had many, many questions and positions and things of that nature. And the content, after reading the email, we decided that it would be probably a very good thing to talk about that on today's Sisters Standing on Law, because it's the sisters that have the baby. And the very first contract that everybody who gets into once they're born via mother, is the birth certificate, negotiable instrument. It's not a contract. It's a negotiable instrument. So and much of this discussion and a lot of the confusion that is going on today is based on the birth certificate, the instrument, the very first instrument that is created when a human being is born. And I'm going to say that again because it's very significant that you recognize we're talking about human beings. We're not talking about property. We're not talking about cargo. We're not talking about a product. We're not talking about a service. if there is any of those attached to a human being, flesh and blood, that is prima facie evidence of human trafficking, not lawful contract. So I just wanted to I just wanted to premise that with that before Roz gets into her discussion.
Well, I just wanted to, trying to knock things out of the box, because once we explain about the birth certificate and bring to the attention of people that, all of this is about truly not honoring from whence you came, which is whatever your mother's womb is, and then, we'll break it all down. It's not just that. It's a sad situation, and we're definitely going to break it down. But as a result of that, you have people, we hate to say you have sons, but 9 out of 10 are sons who don't get it because it is, we all have been patriarchally indoctrinated with the colonist, version of religion called Christian. I mean, everyone has to recognize that, because the treaties, which gave them their freedom, really, to be here, is between Moors and Christians. Now, a lot of people will argue and say, oh, it's between Moors and the Emperor of Morocco, but I have, and I know I do because I believe you got the copies and a certified copy of the treaty. And that is between the Moroccan Empire. Now, the Sultan is, of course, the one who spoke for or with or did, that's like the head of, the family at that time. It's just a title, so it could be anyone. But they absolutely were speaking of the Moroccan Empire. So people get things twisted a lot. But what has happened is, as a result of what we're getting ready to talk about, I think everybody listening will clearly understand the mindset of people, mostly guys who, want to be leaders, guiders, teachers, or whatever, but they don't realize they've been stripped of the matriarchal principle and that they're operating in the commerce principle. So one of the things is when someone writes and says something silly like this, and I haven't told you any, so you're going to hear this. It says only, okay, hold on. Wait a minute. I pulled the wrong one. I got it right here, though. What did I do with it? Oh, yeah, I did print it. Hold on. They say things like Annie said, we get emails. That's how we know where the people's heads are. And then we try to address it only because we're not, and let's get this clear, we're not addressing it to attack the person. In fact, we don't really use anybody's appellation. We don't have to identify anyone to identify the problem or the situation and try to bring correction before a whole bunch of Moors start chasing after that thing, looking, whatever that thing may be, whatever that process may be, whatever carrot is going down, before they start doing that and waste their time to find that, and anything, they'll let a little people get through, and then they chop your head off because they're pulling you towards the bull. They pull you towards everything that really is not accurate, because that way they keep you in a jurisdiction, and you're not in the right word, because that's what jurisdiction means. So, as an example, they're saying that, say, for instance, the nationality cards are fake. Well, we've heard that before. But obviously a person doesn't know that Aboriginal indigenous people have a right to establish their own identity, or Aboriginal people, most definitely. And it says that they're fake because, are you ready for this? Are you ready for this, Emily? Tell me what you think this sounds like. Because only a tribe can be recognized. Now, how is it that they don't know that tribe and family are the same thing? How is it that they don't know that? And that when they say only a tribe can be recognized, are they talking about a federally recognized tribe, which would be an Indian, which we're not? I'm curious as to what are they thinking? So then at the same, and then they say that then they'll say that we can't use the seal. That's a fake seal. So let's see. Let me see. wait a minute. Here's the thing that's up on Facebook. I'm going to try to say what it says. See attached. Where is it? See attached. Okay. So here's what it says. Now listen to this. This is ridiculous. The Falsifying Nationality Act is a federal offense. Falsifying identification cards for indigenous people. Well, first of all, we're doing identification cards for Aboriginal. That's the key in indigenous people, because if you're Aboriginal, of course, you're indigenous. But if you're indigenous, it doesn't mean you're Aboriginal, because Aboriginal is the first, all right? And here in this American land, when you look up the definition of American, it says the various copper tone people found on the planet when the Europeans got here. So we know we're Aboriginal. So the statement is, falsifying identification cards for indigenous people is a federal offense. Falsifying the Nationality Act, okay? Nationality Act. This is not a Nationality Act. So whoever, this is so important because people read this crap up on Facebook and you could tell they don't know what they're talking about. So then it says posting made up, this is the part, made up government seal doesn't make it official. Well, then what does make it official? Do you understand what I'm saying? And then charging people online is a scam. What are we charging people online except for a service to process the, these things? Now, if they were going, when I say things, I mean the card and sealing with the seal on paperwork. Now, if they were dealing with the pseudo-government that they've been dealing with all their life, they would say nothing like this, nothing at all. So what is it with these people? So my question is, if it's not an official seal, what makes it official? Like, who do these people think would be using the Great Seal, and therefore it would then be official? And who would they be paying to make that all right too and not false? You know what I mean? And do they understand when they say Nationality Act, that's not what's happening, because we're not dealing with the Nationality Act at all. And none of you are, I trust. And that, if you have the right to identify yourself, which is what this is about, you establish your own identity. Why are they, and they're using specifically indigenous. They say jack about Aboriginal. So we're going to, it just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know if you have a comment on that.
No.
Crazy. It's crazy. You got to falsify. You don't have an official seal just because you're using it, Like, who would? Who does? Can you ask that question? Who do they think has an official seal? Like one person somewhere?
And really, there's everybody can have a family seal. Let me make that clear. But there's everybody is not supposed to have a great seal.
That's right.
No. And there's certain activities that have to precede anyone having a seal and utilizing it. So there's a lot of people running around and they're saying that they're stealing papers. And let me tell you a number one clue that somebody ought not to be sealing is if they're sealing a writ of discovery. A writ of discovery does not get sealed. A writ of discovery is simply a question. You are asking for something. If somebody is sealing a writ of discovery, they have just demonstrated that they are not very knowledgeable of the process, that it is similar to a notary, but it is not a notary. Every piece of paper that one writes does not need to have the Great Seal on it. All right? Great Seal is for, statements of a collective nature, hence the name correction, proclamation. It deals in government issues on a whole, not individually. You know,
right.
but you know, our people are so mentally indoctrinated to follow. They believe that, and this is the mental conditioning. They believe that what modern Europeans are doing is lawful and government in terms of what it has been established on this land as government. The notary process is not government.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is,
let me just say it again. The notary process is not government. All right?
So
it's not government. The fact that, and here's a clue. And see, everybody needs to do this, but it's like nobody has done it. Why don't people do the research of these union states? See what they started out as. They started out as a corporation, a company rather. A company. Guess what? They're still a company. Then you have the municipal corporations who started as companies, and they are still a company. These are not government. They, per se, what people have been mentally led to believe. These are companies that at some point incorporated. So if you're going to a company and you have them putting their corporate seal on your document, that's all you got is a corporate seal. You didn't get a government seal at all, because that's not what government is. That's all they did was validate it from a corporate seal perspective. That's it. But you'll never do that unless you do the history. It is imperative that you do the history, because in the history, all of this will be unveiled to you. But if you don't take the necessary time, effort, and energy to go and research what you are near, what corporate infrastructure or structure you are near, you are never going to know this. These entities are the ones that are controlling these institutions they call school, and they're never going to teach you that, because in teaching you the truth, it frees you. Why would they want to free you when you are the basis of them generating revenue? All right? So let's go back to this other thing on the birth.
Let me just say
Go ahead.
So what you're saying in short is, these people who write these kind of things simply do not know anything about law. They have been indoctrinated with what they've been taught in corporate institutions, school, etc., and they don't even realize it. So what I'm beginning to think is that when they say, okay, when we're selling this online, so we're scam artists, I'm beginning to think they're getting paid to put this stuff on Facebook. That's what I'm beginning to think.
And you are absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Let me just give you an example. I don't know why people think, first of all, you don't know who you're talking to on Facebook. That's number one. All right. Number two, that a lot of the stuff that goes down on Facebook, nobody is even researching. And number three, people are wasting time and energy having debates with people on Facebook who you don't know who they are. They could be a freaking infiltrator who has been put in that position simply to waste your time and energy. And you are taking time and energy to write and have debates with the unknown, when you can take that same energy and go open a book or go and review a treaty or a case law or something. Address an issue. Do some research for something that is going to benefit you. But I'm going to tell you what the challenge is. The problem with a lot of people, and a lot of these people on Facebook, is they want to be recognized. They want to be the new leader guy, and Facebook gives them the perfect venue to be the leader guy and never address issues that are right in their home with them, not the people in their homes, with them. Everybody pays an electric bill. Everybody pays a gas bill. Some people may even be paying water bills. How come you ain't addressing that? How come you're not addressing that? Yet you're on Facebook talking crap.
That leads us to our topic for tonight, when you said that they are dealing with corporations and don't even realize it. And I'm saying, I'm beginning to think that They're getting paid to do so, to infiltrate, and you made a very – and here's the thing. On RVBey and all the work we do and all the broadcasts, we've already done the research. So maybe that's why they're having a problem, because we're doing the research and some people are getting it and they don't want that to happen, so they use other Moors who don't know jack and who just want to be heard and seen to try to infiltrate the flow. That's got to be it, because otherwise than that, it's ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense. These are people who haven't studied anything at all.
That's right.
All right.
And you're never going to get your concept straight having useless conversations with people on Facebook that you don't even know. You're never going to get your concept straight. But guess what? That's the whole purpose for the infiltration. Look, the prophet said that the temples are infiltrated, and people like to, they get into this tunnel vision where they compartmentalize and they think, oh, it's just the temples that's infiltrated. No, it's everything. Everything. No?
All right. Oh, sorry, I made a little scratching noise there. Yeah, but I guess they'll get it sooner or later, or they won't get it at all because they're not meant to for whatever reason. But
that's
what they
right.
are meant to do is prime infiltrators, even the ones who are ignorant, But that means and makes it so that Moors have to be more on their game. And what it is that they're bringing in, as you said, the indoctrination of corporations, and thinking that that's what this is all about, and don't realize that, like you said, they're not dealing with government. Notarizing is not it's corporate activity, in fact. But we're going to get into that right about now, are we not?
Yeah. Yes. Now, before we get into anything, because I want to just give people, you should already have this information, really. But since people are they're so caught up in the birth certificate negotiable instrument, they haven't even done their research on it. A lot of people don't even know that the whole birth certificate process was initiated through an act in 1921, but the push for it started prior to that. As you know, everything does. The push for the Maternity Act came in, is what the whole birth certificate process comes out of. It was called the Maternity Act. It became known as the Maternity Act, but it's the Shepherd Counter Maternity and Infant Act. This is an act that was established by modern Europeans under the United States of America for the benefit of those modern European daughters, because they had huge infant mortality deaths, as they still do today. They had that, all right? Now, that was established in the United States of America. Why do I say that? Because if you've been paying attention to the previous broadcast, you know that the United States government formally adjourned Insanidea in 1861, and there's been no one sitting in the seats of the United States since then. All talk that has been going on under the United States of America. That is cleared out. That's clearly, specified in the preamble of the American Constitution, which goes over most people's heads. There's two entities operating here. You got the United States and you have the United States of America. The Maternity Act, and it says it, interesting because if you do research just a little bit, it says the purpose of the Shepherd Towns Act of 1921, listen to the language, was to reduce maternal and infant mortality. The legislation was supported by progressive social reformers and feminists, including Grace Abbott and Julia Lathrop. It was part of a larger movement called scientific mothering, applying scientific principles and to the care of infants and children and educating mothers, especially those who were poor or less educated. And it goes on to say that this was the first welfare reform program initiated. And who is the initial beneficiaries of the whole welfare program? Do your research on that, because it wasn't the Asiatic population. The welfare program came about as an answer to assist modern European widows of World War II, I believe. And many of the projects around the world today was built for them. That's right in the record. So how is it that today we as Moors is clinging to this whole birth certificate program that was never established for us? But here's the kicker: that was repealed. The whole birth certificate act, the whole act of getting people to complete a birth certificate form, all of that was repealed in 1926. But you know what? Like most things, they start things, but they'll let everybody know when they started, but they never let people know when it ended. Now, it doesn't matter whether it ended or it continued, because it was never established for the Asiatics of the land. It was established for the modern European female daughters. They're the ones that have this birth certificate issue. They're the ones that need to be provided for, not Moors. They're already provided for. It's a liberty. It's not something that anybody needs to give to you. So with that, I also want to, touch on that. That's just the background of the whole birth certificate program. But here we have people running around thinking that the birth certificate is a contract. Well, in order for it to be a contract, it has to have the basic elements of a contract. Did you have full disclosure? Was there mutual consideration provided? Now, let's look at that. I'm a mother, because everybody likes to blame mother. Oh, she sold me into slavery. My mother gave me up through a birth certificate program like she had full knowledge of that, right? She never had full knowledge of that. So that's not what's going on. But let's look at the second principle. The second criteria is equal consideration. Now, if mother sold you and gave you up as a human being, what was the other side giving? Another human being? How come mother don't got that human being? This is a flesh and blood being. What did she get that was of equal value for her baby? Yeah. Right? And people need to think, all right? And then thirdly, in order for her, under the full disclosure portion, all right, everybody thinks it's a contract, right? What would have been her performance? Because, see, in order for a contract to become invalid, it means that you breached the contract, all right? In order for you to get kidnapped for whatever reason because of the birth certificate, which is not a contract, but everybody presumes it's a contract. So let's look at it. In order for a contract to become breached, you have to first know what the terms and conditions were. What is it that you were supposed to do? Because I'm a mother, and I can tell you I have never completed any birth certificate application, and there was terms and conditions. None, ever. You can go to any of these hospital institutions and ask for a copy of the whole birth certificate application. It might not give it to you, but you can go there and you can ask them for a copy of it, and on that document, there's no terms and conditions. There's nothing that says this is what you have to do when you breach contract. But now, even if you did get it, even if you did get any of it, the bottom line is, if somebody gave you a document alleging that it was a contract, and the contract was all wrapped up in a brand new baby, that's human trafficking. What is a new baby going to be doing? I could see if this was like maybe a teenager or a young child, and if it became apparent that they could sing. So the mother might go and engage in a contract with some sort of a radio station or a studio, and they say, oh, the child has to sing X amount of songs to fulfill the contract. There's nothing that's going to happen like that for a newborn baby. Nothing, all right? But even if there, what would the requirements of a brand new baby be? So there's never been any full disclosure. So now, if there's never been at least full disclosure, then the contract is void ab initio. How is it that people are talking about contractual capacity of a minor? Well, if there is a minor involved, there is no contractual capacity. It's void. It's void from the door. Then there's conversations going on about the exercise of avoidance of contract is called disaffirmance. It's got to first be a contract for there to be avoidance of a contract. You can't avoid something that doesn't exist. That's what ab initio means. It's void ab initio, void from the door. So there is no contractual obligation. These birth certificates demonstrate one thing. I don't care if it's the birth certificate, the Social Security card, or the driving instrument. They demonstrate one thing and one thing only. They demonstrate human trafficking. That's it. Because if somebody says, we're not going to give you something unless you provide this instrument, nobody's ever asked, why is that necessary? Please explain to me why I'm standing here and you're asking me to bring documents that don't prove nothing. I'm standing right here. So if I'm standing right here, what is the need for a birth certificate, driver's license, or Social Security card? What is the need for these things? We as a people, we should be looking these things up individually and researching them. Because I can tell you, I looked up the Social Security Act of 1935, and that was a program, once again, provided under the United States of America for modern Europeans, so that when they get old, if they choose to participate in that program, they will be provided for. And there's certain things that they can't even make you do or ask you that is in that Social Security Act. And if you're not a federal employee, you're volunteering. It's right in the language. So people are making all of these presumptions, and they're acting on those presumptions, and they're getting into situations with the police or the employee of the municipal corporation who, and I'll say this, and I'm going to let you talk, Ross, because there's just so much stuff to be covering in this little communication here. The Social Security Act, the maternity program, and the driver's license, all three of these are federal programs, all right? They're federal programs. How does a foreign municipal corporation on American soil get to be the entity that enforces a federal program without being held accountable? I'm going to say that again because people might have some wax in their ear. The Social Security program, the birth certificate program, which was repealed, and the driving instrument, these are all federal programs. How does a foreign municipal corporation on American soil get to be the sole enforcer of that program and enforcing it on the people without any documentation? No, in the Constitution it says all powers are delegated. So where's the delegation of authority that I need to see that so that I can see what you can do and what you cannot do? It's not that they don't have a delegation of authority, because 9 times out of 10 they probably do. But it probably doesn't say that they can do what they're doing. But people will never know that unless they do the research, get the INSPA documents, and review it, research it, and analyze it. Islam?
Islam. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's great. So now I'm going to just, you're going in on it, but there is a part here that we want to address as well. Let's see, what did I do? Sorry, here it is. All right, so with that being said, to capsulize, it is, it's hard, and we definitely get why it's hard for people to, really effectuate, because everything that's being said, like they'll come back and say, well, that's what they're doing. Well, we know what they're doing. The only reason they're doing it is because we as the people aren't having anything to say about it. And they have gotten away with doing it for so long because we didn't know, And so now that we are knowing, we really are still doubtful because we have to accept that we've been indoctrinated into this way of thinking, as an example, that they are, in fact, government. They're corporations, which is why, and it is saying if you check out who they are, you will clearly see they are not government. And you see the road that they're taking you down and have been for a long time, and the grips that they seem to have or falsely have, really, on the posterity, because they have been allowed to do so. Why are they upset when you bring it different? Because they want to kick you off one by one if they could to have you shut up. But what did you say, and I heard Obama say this the other day too. He said the genie is out of the bottle and you cannot put it back in. It is already, people have this consciousness. Now, because they go with this thought that these people are government, they actually believe that they're going against government or they're going against law enforcement. It's like he shall fool the most elite has never been more demonstrated than right now. So what it's saying is that if you could go back and find where the birth certificate started, and it's actually called an act, then you know what's going on. So now with all that you just explained, putting the premise that all of this is fictitious. Now, the thing we need to do is to make, and this person also suggested that in their mind they have some points, but they have some concepts incorrect. And in a minute, I want you to explain that. But they're talking about going to the international community and doing a sue. Well, how can you go sue if you don't understand what the problem is? The problem is the birth certificate is an instrument that absolutely, unequivocally proves human trafficking, as it was just explained. All right. So, we can't see if we all would have come together, regardless to our differences personally, but to what is in common, that we're family, that we're all the same, that we're all Moors, this is who we are. So if we could all come together, this stuff would be done. But first you got to get people to come out of the mental sleep wherein they believe this is government. They'll say, they're going to do this. They've been doing all of that stuff. It's just been easier for them because you've been accepting it and walking along in it. But if we came together, we could absolutely suit them in the international community as well as, and then that would straighten out everything in the federal court. People can't even identify what is a federal court and what is not, because they'll say it's a court, and it's not a court. And they'll have you come in there back and forth, never show any, and it was saying they probably have a delegation, for instance, in travel with the driving program. It's not even their program. It's a federal program of which they participate in. So where do they get the authority? They'll even tell some people, Title 49, that's where we get our authority. Well, did you read Title 49? Because first line, as it explains what it is, says it's only for those who are driving. So if we can't get on the same page, we can't in unison make these claims. So we're trying to say that the birth certificate, because people talk about what the birth certificate does, what it doesn't do. It really doesn't do anything but prove human trafficking. So people will go into, this is what I want to introduce here, and maybe you can kind of break this, we can try to pull this apart, because they put truth and falsehood is so strangely mixed that if you don't do this imperative study to know what is what and who is who, you will get lost in this all. So people will say, I am a free national Moor. And then what they're literally doing is looking at their birthright, a commercial process, and immersing themselves into commerce and using words and a weed and eat and a weed and a weed and I got any weed now and saying things like guardian. Explain that. Like they'll say, okay, listen, let me just read this and then see what it is. Let's read this first paragraph and just pick apart in it where it is so convoluted and a mixture of apples and oranges, because whereas this person is saying, and many are saying, I know that the birth certificate, it says it right here, although the birth certificate doesn't have full disclosure, we know that in fraud and the inducement cases, a fraudulent contract is voidable and under contractual capacity. Well, first of all, it's not a contract. I thought we just said that. So how are you coming back and saying that? Okay, talking about contracts. No problem. What does a contract have to do with your nationality and your birthright? People believe that their birthrights come through this commercial process, and it doesn't. It comes from your mother. So that means, right, no, you know, this is so serious. And then it says, and look at this trick. This is what I want you to explain. Fraudulent contract is voidable and under contractual capacity in a minor. Well, a minor, like you just said, can't have a contract, right? Even if it were, but it's not. Whether executory or executed is voidable at his state or her guardian's option. Oh, guardian is a commercial term. Would you like to explain that? And that's crazy.
First of all, he says voidable at his
state. Parenthesis state or guardian's option.
His
and
state.
At that point, let me just finish it. And at that point, and that point
is he specific. Law is specific, and I'm going to tell you right now.
Yes. No presumption, no assumption.
State or the state, that's not specific.
No.
You don't know what state means, and you don't know, there and somewhere else they say the people. Well, who is that? Everything
no, it says
specific. And then you're talking about guardians. Now, let me tell you, in law, the word child is not talking about a baby, flesh and blood. I'm sorry, in the corporate arena, the word child is not talking about a flesh and blood baby. It is talking about a corporation newly birthed. That's what it is talking about. So whenever you see these forms, they say, I need, especially when in the institution they call school, every single document there, it says parent or guardian. That is corporate language. They're not talking about the baby. They're talking about some corporate entity. Now, I believe that the challenge that a lot of people had is they start disputing this alleged corporate entity by saying, well, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. All right? Now, my position is you got to show why you're not that. And see, right in the Black's Law 4th edition dictionary, under the definition of person, it says person, as it is used in the 14th Amendment, refers to a corporation. Now, me, I'm immediately going to, I'm offended. I ain't trying to validate it or dispute it. I'm offended because you just allege that I'm a corporation. Now, it depends on what your strategy is. You may on the spot want to say, look, I am not a corporation, and I am insulted for you to presume that I am that. I can't be that. What are you saying? Or you may want to just simply note that, oh, they gave me documented proof that they think I'm a corporation. I'm standing right here. I could never be a corporation. So now if you got documented proof that somebody's alleging you're a corporation, what do you have prima facie evidence of?
Right.
Human trafficking.
Yes.
Human trafficking. Am I going? Look, they just gave me the necessary documentation to take this into a lawful court venue. And you know what's crazy? I don't care who you are. If you got a child, if you have a baby, boy or girl, or any of your lineal descendants, let me put it like that, all right, and your lineal descendants in these institutions they call schools, every single piece of paper that they have given you says child, parent, or guardian. Never says mother.
Nope.
It always says parent or guardian because that's corporate language. They're talking about a corporation. They just gave us prima facie evidence of human trafficking, but since we don't study, we don't know that. And unfortunately, many of us don't study in terms of cracking open a fourth edition book. I mean, because I'm going to tell you, this is what I have. This is in my experience. I can go to my Black's Law Fourth Edition dictionary to look up the word parent, guardian, person, and I'll get lost in that book because somewhere above it, below it, or in it is going to be some other things that pique my curiosity. And I'm going to have to pull myself away from that dictionary because it's going to suck me into looking up some more stuff. And so that's what's supposed to happen. But unfortunately, a lot of our people have been mentally conditioned that if they don't get it from an audio recording or a lecture, they're not going to get it. And that's why these modern Europeans can continue to do what they're doing because they know we don't crack open books. We will get on Facebook and be on there for days. And a lot of stuff that they will say on Facebook, they don't even, people don't even go and do the research. I'm not saying that people don't put definitions up on Facebook sometimes, but how many people will go to the reference source and go and look for themselves? I mean, that's study, that's research, that's analyzing.
And we do it often. We put the source up as much as we can. We don't forget or whatever. We'll put the source up. We did it for them, and they still get confused.
Yep.
And so what does it take? It takes time to ferret out, like you said, to put the pieces together, and it doesn't happen overnight. But as you see these people running to these things, and here we are with this information that many people have. And I know that they think some of them, not all of them, but some of them think they really know something, but they don't recognize that they're mixing apples with freaking oranges, and that you can't, on one hand, say that you are a free national Moor and then believe that the birth certificate is proof of your being birthed from your mother. Like, mother, we're up in there. And there's the other thing. They think that, we say it all the time, and you just explain it, that the mother, did sign the birth certificate. I don't care what, first of all, she didn't sign the birth certificate because the certificate is a receipt. That's number one. And people don't know that, right? And a lot of people have these birth certificates that are given to them, their parent or their mother and father at birth, and they don't have signatures of the parents on it. I've seen many that are not like. They started doing that now so that they can make the presumption that your parent that calling your mother or father a parent, or guardian, as you said, is what puts them into the corporate jargon. That jargon should not be accepted. And it's not that anybody accepted it in that contract, because it's not a contract. And so even if they did sign it, it's still a void ab initio. So you got all of these processes going out to try to make it voidable when no one is recognizing that it is already void ab initio, which means from the beginning, and it is absolutely, any suit that would go on collectively is that it is an instrument that creates human trafficking. And when you get to the point where you understand that, you finally get to that point that wherever you go, if someone should even dare to ask you for a birth certificate, how you would rebuke that. And then tell what you tell them. Do you know what I mean? And even you would no, that's a instrument that creates human trafficking. I don't have, no. You know what I mean? But you'll never say that because it's been indoctrinated until you know and feel safe with that. And the only way to feel safe with that is to have knowledge of where it comes from, as it's trying to be expressed now. Now, the other thing going through here, okay, some people think that the birth certificate, the Social Security, is a law. And so not wanting to get outside of the birth certificate and the SSN not to break laws. What the heck makes them think that stuff has anything to do with laws? That's not laws. Those are statutes, codes, ordinance. So if you go in and you speak...
And here's the other thing. Here's a clue. All right, that it's not the law. It's called an act. Mm-hmm. It's called an act. It's not even called statute, ordinance. It's an act. All right? It's an act. It's not even lawful. It's not in harmony with the American Constitution. Well, it is. It is if you were to really read it, because it's all voluntary, just like the driving instrument. Many people don't know that the driving instrument is for anyone who is engaging in commerce. Specifically, you're a chauffeur, and driving is your job. And it initially started with railroads. And when they use the word car, they're talking about a railroad car. And when they use the word passenger, they're talking about a passenger car. That's railroad terminology. All right? But even when it comes to the people, that you don't have to ever participate in that. However, you can agree to the registering of your property so that if it is stolen, you have some sort of identification on it. But people fell for that because that was a slow walk into some other stuff, because an automobile already has an identification. It's called a vehicle identification number, which is equivalent to the serial number on any item you purchase today.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is why the prophet said, study, study, study. The reason he said study, study, study is because he knew that there was going to be a lot of tricks coming down the pipe. You wouldn't fall for it if you studied. But you know what's crazy is a lot of these people who are doing these things that's so extremely questionable, they say things like, well, I'm well studied, and they're well studied, and they're teaching this misinformation to other people. You can't teach this. You can't teach to other people. You can give them information, but you can't really teach. Like people say, can you teach me how to write a writ? I can give you some basic information, just like in school. You have to write a report. Well, they'll tell you the basic elements of writing a report, but you're the one that's got to sit down and put it together. Mm-hmm. And it's just like it is with everything. But too many people, they want to look. They're passing off these processes that is capturing the people for these municipal corps, they're putting these people into a position where they are they're voluntarily putting themselves under the jurisdiction of a corporation, and so because of that, the code breakers can come and ask you questions. Sorry, the municipal employees that are called police, they can come and ask you questions as a code breaker.
Right.
Because you're operating like a corporation, and corporations break codes.
Right. And so that's what's in the mindset, but it's also what they're exercising. In other words, if you were to say that you're Aboriginal Indigenous Free National, right, then that's fine. But you can't say that and then believe that these people are authority. The two don't mix. You can't say that and then talk as if you are in fact immersing yourself in commercial stuff in order to get your freedom. Now, some people, in order to be free and exercise your liberties. Now, some people will say, well, yeah, they're beating up us upside their head and all that. They've been doing that. Mm-hmm. They're doing that anyway. With their force. However, if you really, really, really are talking about doing a suit, class action, as said here, internationally, you can't go there talking this commerce stuff because this has nothing to do with your birthrights and nationality. So therefore, your writs will be all wrong because, we don't know how to explain it better. They came here allowing to do commerce. We keep immersing ourselves in their codes and statutes and stuff that they're doing. And they want to holler about a violation of your rights that you have not exercised yet, and certainly not collectively. So you can't go to the international community with things that are mixed to the two. Like, in other words, I think what it is, they believe that they know that these people are doing commerce. All right, so that's that. We know that too. That's what they were allowed to do. And at the same time, because they know they're doing commerce, and because they think they're government, which is a contradiction in itself, because they think they're government, they think they have to immerse themselves in commerce, and just because they made a birth certificate, which is a receipt, which proves human trafficking, they think they're actually, that's it. They think they're actually up on Wall Street when they're sitting right there in a chair. So that's the other thing about, if you would, explaining that, they're going to dissolve the birth certificate. You can't dissolve it. Can you explain to them why they can't dissolve it in any way? They think they can actually dissolve it and don't understand that they can't. So when they try to, an attempt to, they're showing them that the people, Moors, actually have faith in that, actually believe that they can actually do something with the birth certificate and make themselves, I don't know what the word is, they're trying to make themselves not, it's kind of like crazy because nobody can change your descent nature, and the moment you know that, and you realize that in law there are no presumptions and there are no assumptions. So you can't come talking like that. You have to be very square about who you are. So this whole thing about people thinking they can dissolve the birth certificate, would you like to make a comment on that and try to clear the air about why they cannot?
If anybody has paid attention to the whole mortgage fraud thing that kicked off, one of the things that came out was that Moor, which is simply a recording company, they were given the notes and the so-called titles to all of these mortgage contracts, negotiable instruments that they are. Moor took all of those contracts, bundled them up, chopped them into millions of pieces, and sold them around the world. Which is why the minute you walk in The minute you see Moorish on any so-called Moorish document is done already, because nobody can produce the original document. You can't come in with a copy, all right? Everybody is saying, oh, when you buy a house and you get a mortgage, it creates a trust. Well, people need to know a little bit about trust law, because you cannot come in with a copy of a document when it's a trust. I can tell you that as a matter of fact. All right? Because the universe put me in a place where I got to actually witness and observe a trust being created. All right? Under the statutes of one of these union states. But some of the principles will not change. One of the principles is you cannot come and make a claim with a copy. And that's why they tell you, once you have original documents, you need to get a safe and put it in there. And they will tell you need to get a fireproof and a waterproof safe and put it in there, because if it ever, the original, gets destroyed, you're done.
But hold on. May I interject? I know you're leading into the birth certificate, and I just want to say this now. That must be why they think they're going to get an authenticated and notarized copy of the birth certificate. It's still a copy.
Can't use it. Look, everything is negotiable instrument. And see, the only thing the certificate is saying is, I don't care what certificate it is. If you get anything and it says certificate, it's saying there's a lawful title somewhere. Now, this is something simple. Everybody can do this. And you don't have to be arrogant, and you don't have to be obnoxious. But if you have an automobile, or you know somebody who has an automobile, go and get a copy of the title. Go and get a copy of the title, because it's not the title. It is certifying that there is a title. Now, if you understand law, you know the title on this land is RVBey. If you understand law, you know that title cannot be granted by modern Europeans. So,
but I
go
want
and
to repeat
find
again.
The
title on this
for
land
your
is
automobile.
Repeat it again. The title on this land is what?
RVBey.
RVBey. Fundamentally and elementally. Don't worry about the RVBey, Island Ali. You got to be an RVBey first. The title. Those are reserved for degrees of attainment that we can't even get to if we don't understand that the RVBey is the fundamental title to all of it. So, because people, they do that. They want to be an Al, and why can't I be a Bay, and all this kind of stuff. They can't even be an RVBey first. And then you talk about degrees, that's the first degree. You're not Negro, colored, and black. All right? So you need to have your title placed on your appellation or the name that you have now and make it into a free national appellation with the title, even if you use what you have, that you keep calling a straw man, because it really isn't that. It's a nom de guerre. But anyway, go ahead. So they're going to go get so you were talking about leading to explaining the title to the cars, the automobiles. They'll never have. And
right, they'll never have it. And also, when you allege to be going and buying a house, they say, oh, you got to do a title search.
Yep.
And then after you buy the house, they say, well, we got to transfer. We do assignment of the title. No one has ever seen a title for a house. Go on the World Wide Web and Google title for house. Title, mortgage title. Now, if you purchase a car, because I've experienced this, when you make the last payment, the company will send you back the original contract stamped on it, paid in full. But that's just the negotiable instrument to purchase the car. That's not the title. Because, look, if that was the title, right? If that was literally the title to the car, why are you going to the Department of Motor Vehicles to get a certificate of title? And then once you pay off the car, why do you still need to go and get a certificate of title? Because the document that the automobile corporation sends you back, the original, supposedly, with the stamp on it, paid in full, that ought to be your title now.
Right, but it's not.
That's why you got all these people talking about, I'm going to go and I'm going to capture the straw. I'm going to claim. I'm going to retrieve the birth certificate. No, you're not. Because by its very definition, the birth certificate is just a document that certifies that the original is somewhere. That's all. And just like they gave you one, anybody else who comes behind you with the acceptable forms of identification, they can get one just like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now the other thing is, because they take these negotiable instruments and bundle them and then sell them all over the world, in order for you to capture that birth certificate, you would have to go and retrieve every piece of that original document that was sold all around the world and put that document back together again. You're never going to be able to do that. Never. Now, you might have a clue of how to do that if you had access to the security exchange, which means you would then have to be a broker, and then you would have to know what was the various different 9-digit numbers that they assigned to every piece of the birth certificate that they broke up and sold around the world. It's impossible to get back the original document so that you can supposedly make a claim when you can just upfront claim human trafficking.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
And then what about the fact that, and just in the essence of even, so what was all that was just said is to tell the people you can't dissolve the birth certificate. You didn't establish it. Even I know you think you did. You didn't. Your mother or your father got a certificate of a title to a baby being born, which means it is human trafficking, and that's how you deal with it for what it is. Human trafficking, which is an international crime. So you got to take that to it. Not I've authenticated it, I've dissolved it, and what else did this thing say? Wait, hold on. Oh, and then at the same time, this is it. I want you to finish what you're saying, but keep this in mind. If you say you've adopted the free name of your forefathers and forefathers, but you still exercise the benefits and privileges of the birth certificate or SSN under color law, what kind of sense does that make if you're a free national and you know your birthrights come from your mother?
I would like to know what those benefits and privileges are, because last I checked, right in the Constitution and many of the case laws that affirm this, it says they are not giving you anything because they have nothing to give. So what is these benefits and privilege from the very people that have nothing to give?
Right. They just did a commercial transaction on you, and you're the one who is the commercial, the product, by even looking at this birth certificate in essence as something that is viable. You're admitting into and immersing into seeing it as something that it is not for you. They see it as that, and they've gotten you to invest in it and believe in it, you need not see it as that, because it's an instrument that prove human trafficking. So I think they think that they have to do that, but they don't realize that you are immersing yourself in their stuff. That they have mixed truth with falsehood so well that you're not able to even, ferret it out. But that's only because it's not enough study about it, and the other one is that you really do believe these people are government when they're not.
Exactly. And I can't say this more. I can't stop saying this, and I will never stop saying this. And so everybody who's offended when I say this, too bad. We have got to study. Because if we had been studying like the prophet told us to, we wouldn't be falling for so many tricks. We shouldn't have to go into defensive mode because we didn't take the necessary time and energy to study. That's not, prophet never said, hey, wait for something to land on your doorstep and then study. He said study first. So these things, this is what's going on, this whole birth certificate, Social Security, driving instrument, all of them, they all use the same process. And they all make the same presumption. What they do is they're using language that tricks the vast majority of people because they know they didn't tell them. And they also know they greatly discouraged them from studying. All right? That's why they will tell you things, and they will tell you in a way where it sounds like if you don't do it, you're going to get in trouble. But in reality, nobody can force you to enter into any contractual obligation with any company, corporation, or association. No one can do that. They can make you enter into these agreements based on lack of information. And see, what's going on right now is because of the lack of information, we got a lot of Moors that are voluntarily going and engaging in these. They're not contracts. They're going and they're going and signing off on these negotiable instruments because they feel like, well, I can sign up for it, but I can reserve my rights. Now, I'll say this: if you have to feed a family and you have to have a driving instrument, then yeah, that's what you need to do. But you should also have an eye to asking relevant questions like, can you show me the law that says I am compelled to do this or that or the other? Like, there's people will tell you that there's some sort of a law that says if you apply for Social Security, if you apply for any kind of so-called welfare, you have to get a Social Security number. Well, did anybody ask for the law to substantiate that? I'm not talking about a statute. I'm not talking about a corporate policy procedure. I'm talking about the law. Because I read that would be like aid to family with it or something like that. And that falls, believe it or not, that falls under Social Security. It's not. It's and the whole Social Security Administration program falls under in the Constitution where it says promote the general welfare. So they are mandated to promote the general welfare of the people, not create a corporate construct that generates revenue.
And that's what they've done.
Right there. And everything on this land is supposed to be about protecting the unalienable and inalienable liberties of the people, not through trickery, converting the unalienable or making a presumption, because they're really not doing that. They make an appearance of convert your liberties. But really, if you understand that your liberties, your freedom, that comes from your mother. That's why it's unalienable and inalienable. And it comes through birth, which means that's your lineal descent line. That's inheritance. It can't be bought or transferred. Can't be bought, sold, or transferred. So in these contracts, what is going on? Is there some buying, selling, or transferring going on? Because if any of that is going on, then that is human trafficking. It's a violation of the American Treaty, and every single corporation is bound by the American Constitution. All people, not some, all of them. If you step foot on American soil, you are protected. And they can't come up, and there's no loophole. Here's the only loophole, if the people don't know.
Exactly. And that's why it's been going on. That's why it's been going on. Because they'll say things like, well, they do what they want to do. Well, if you're going in talking about you're a free national Moor, but then trying to put your nationality into a commercial venue, then they already know you don't really know. And not that you don't really know, but that you admitted into that jurisdiction of being a commercial entity. So that they do what they do.
When you do that, what it is looked at is you did this with full knowledge.
Yes.
And ignorance of the law is no excuse, will fall on you like a ton of bricks.
Exactly. So and in here it says, to exercise to experience hindrance from the European colonists or those that are infected with colorful doctrine who may not understand law. Well, let me tell you, the employee that they train to get you to sign all this stuff and do all this stuff, they may or may not understand law. But what's behind this, trust me, the reason they're doing it is to try to see if they can get to their end by making you, as you said here, the economic liberty to his benefit. And so what the brother's saying is that then those who may or may not know law or may not want to see a Moor exercise the law because it could possibly produce economic liberty to their community. You're damn right, because you are the economy for them. So once you pull away from that and realize you're not going to let them pimp you no more, then, yeah, they lose. And why is that? They have no product to sell. They're supposed to be doing commerce. So they're trying to make human trafficking of the people only because of the ignorance of the people and the, I guess you would call it tacit agreement that they have by involving themselves and even thinking that these people are in fact government when they are in fact a corporation.
They're a corporation, and you know what? The other thing is most people do not comprehend exactly what government is. Government is synonymous, meaning it is the same as family. And if you understand, this is trickery. This is some extreme trickery. Because if you are of Asiatic descent, meaning you are of African descent, this is what is in the American Constitution, the original 13th Amendment. It says you cannot be of the United States of America. You cannot be a citizen of the United States of America if you are of African descent. Yet they have tricked people because they excluded that, and then they mentally conditioned people to think that government is something other than family. So now if you're Asiatic, You cannot be, I don't care what paper you signed off on, you can never be a member of the United States of America because that was established for modern European families.
Oh, man, say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
That will never be any original, Aboriginal, Indigenous. I don't care if you're asleep in a fog, a coma. I don't care what you are. I don't care what little fraudulent piece of paper you signed. I don't care what best friend came along and said or what grand sheik said. You can never be a member of the United States of America because that's not your family.
Hello.
And that's what government means. Family falls under the United States, but we have abandoned our family because those seats are empty, and then we're busy fighting over, I'm a United States of America citizen, and I got privileges and benefits. How the hell you going to have privileges and benefits under the United States of America when your ancestors gave them stuff?
Right. That's right. And when you speak about
benefits that you would have gotten, you would be getting came from your family.
Exactly. And so, when you speak, that's the other thing. I'm glad we brought that up. Some people think that, well, we're going to band together. No, we're going to get together and we're going to have them ban the 14th and 15th Amendment. Hold the bus. They're not valid, and they don't apply to you. The only thing that applies to you is the organic Constitution. What they've done is added stuff and then told you that this is the Constitution when it isn't the Constitution. How would you know that? If you studied the Constitution organically, pull it up in the congressional record, wherein you will find, as an example, Amendment 13. Well, guess what? It has 20 sections, and yes, it is published in the congressional record as that. Now, and you just mentioned Article 12 of one of those 20 says that you can't be a citizen of the United States of America. So now what they did is put before you through publishing of 13th Amendment with 2 articles. But if you go to congressional records, you find the real deal. But who's going in the congressional records? If they didn't put it in school for you, it doesn't exist to you, which is why we need to have our own schools and do our own research about our illustrious history. You know, they did that purposely. So now when it comes to the 14th and 15th Amendment, you said it earlier, read the daggone. See, this is where study comes in. Same thing with impropria persona. When you read impropria persona, that's where it tells you that you can't have an attorney represent you. But you weren't reading attorney, even though you could read that too. You were studying to read impropria persona. And it led you straight to letting you know that if you have an attorney, his first obligation is to the court, not to the client. In fact, if you go into a court with an attorney, you become a ward of that court because he brings you there and gives leave to the court. Now, him giving leave to the court, that sentence right there, it's in the definition of impropria persona. It tells you clearly, pleadings to the court must be in proper person. Oh, and by the way, it also must be in the real court. But pleadings to the court must be in proper person. If not, and if it's pled by an attorney, you give leave to the court. So that means he takes you to the court because he's an officer of the court, and he drops your ass off there and puts you smack in the jurisdiction of the court as a ward of that court, whether it's a real court or not a real court. To bring an attorney means it's not a real court because, you know, that's the Barracks Association. But at any rate, to have the attorney and he brings you to the court, he's dropping you off and giving leave so you can just talk all the smack you want. It means nothing because your actions of having the attorney prove that you are not presenting yourself and that you don't know law and that you just gave up jurisdiction. And so now you're going through the dog and pony show, and you're not going to get anything from that. Same thing with the 14th Amendment. And it says right in there when you read person, that's where you find out that you have to qualify person because it tells you there's 2 types of person. You know, there's a natural person, and then there's a fictional corporate person, right? It's right in the definition of person. Then it has the audacity to use the 14th Amendment to describe what fiction person is. It says person as used in the first clause, not the second, not the third, not the fourth, the first clause which opens it up, as it is used there, means a corporate person. So why would anyone invest, a Moor, natural being, invest in the 14th Amendment, the 14th Amendment civil rights leaders and stuff like that, right? So with that being said, for someone to say we need to get the 14th and 15th Amendment out of the Constitution, they don't understand that the 14th and 15th Amendment is not a part of the Constitution. It's a part of some crap they added on to later that's not even ratified.
That's right. That's right. And see, what they did, now this is how you know. See, in ancient times, like for example, many people know that the Bible had, they say it's been missing, it's been altered, all right? The reason it was altered is because there were many truths in that document that was there to free the minds of the people. So those who could read took them out. However, if you don't have the eyes to see, there's things in there that you're not going to comprehend. Therefore, they will remain in there. And for those who read it in the future, who do have the eyes to see, to read and free their mind. All right? Now, the Constitution is the same way. Now, if you read the seven articles and the 10 the Bill of Rights, all right, and you have the eyes to see, you will know that the 13th Amendment, as it is written today, and everything after it, has nothing to do with people and is 100% contradictory towards the original body and intent and law that is the American Constitution. Mm-hmm. Because the American Constitution was written to ensure that the people was protected at all costs. Now, everything after, from the 14th, well, actually what they promote as the 13th on, today promotes corporate power, which is prima facie evidence that it is unconstitutional, therefore void ab initio. But you will never know that because they do not teach you that history in these institutions, because if they did, then you would never go back there tomorrow and you wouldn't send your children back there tomorrow.
Right. Right.
I don't care if you got a babysitter or not. You would not send them back there because you will see clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But all of this, we're going through all of this because this really, mothers, this is for you. Nobody is beating you up behind the fact that you did sign the negotiable instrument that is referred to as the birth certificate and or social security card, because those things are a piece of cake to void out. Or I should say disclaim. The tenets of these negotiable instruments is not what's important. What is important is that name or derivative of an appellation that is on there, that's family property. Who gave them the right to use it? And if somebody in the family did give them a right to use it, well, then that means that the use of it creates an investment. Did you get a return on your investment? Now, I'm not saying to anybody that they should now go and try and get a return on the investment. That's not what I'm saying. Don't even go there. That's just, some food for thought. What people on a whole need to be doing is refusing to continue to sign those negotiable instruments and refute and or sue anyone who compels you to use it or bring it forth as evidence of what? What are you using it to do?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I remember years ago when I first got the information about Social Security numbers, I called the Social Security Administration. I asked them, is this a form of identification? I was told, and it was on the website. I haven't checked lately, but I had a screen print of that somewhere on their website where it says the Social Security card and number is not a form of identification. I asked them, what do you do if a corporation demands it as a form of information of identification? They told me you will have to sue them. Now, if you back up a bit, the question becomes, how did they get it in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Because also on the back of the Social Security card and with the literature they send to you, they say, do not give this number to anybody. Please keep it in a safe place. It says it right on the card and with the literature that they send you with it. So why are people giving it out to any Tom, Dick, or Harry? You know why? Because of lack of information. That's why.
Mm-hmm. And they've created a whole system based on that. A whole system to tie you in to everything. They tie you to. I mean, you see that improve when you didn't pay some other, let's say, bill, and all of a sudden they're gonna have your driver's license suspended, and the two don't have nothing to do with each other. But they connect them through the Social Security number, and then they through coercion and threat and duress, they're actually navigating their life like that. With that information.
Here's the other thing. You're right. Now, here's the other thing. Now, and this is where people need to look. Bob Marley said, get up, stand up for your rights. If you don't stand up for them, nobody else is going to. I know guys that, up until like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, told me, and accepted this, told me that they can't travel anymore because they owe child support. Passport was suspended or canceled or something. I was like, what? I ain't say nothing to the person because they're not a person that's going to stand up for their rights. But I recognize, wow, look at this. And I know there are people, I have heard of guys whose driving privileges have been suspended because they owe child support. Now, if you have done your research, you ought to know that child support is an operation of a foreign municipal corporation on American soil, right? The passport and the driving instrument is federal program. That smells like treason to me. Is it that a foreign municipal corporation on American soil has the power to suspend your right to travel on the land, sea, or air via the driving instrument or passport, and they can get away with it, and those are federal programs. That sounds like treason.
And mental conditioning of the people to believe.
That's mental conditioning because at the very least, somebody should have been suing them. Well, I'll tell you right now, most people don't sue them anyways because all of this child support, whatever, it goes on as a corporate hearing. They take you into a building that's called a court, but you are having a hearing, and they will even let you know that in the literature they send you that invites you to the hearing. It says in there will be a hearing on such and such a day. Please meet me at such and such courthouse building. I could send out an invitation to people today. Meet me at the Trump Towers at such and such time on such and such day. Does that now make me Donald Trump?
Yeah. So now to kind of wrap up what has been said. Well, you really can't, because every bit of it is important, and that's why we're glad these are recorded, because you can always go back and listen again. But one of the things that I saw that stood out in what is being said is this. That would be Article 6 of the Constitution. Yeah, the Constitution, the thing that preserves your rights, no matter what nobody say. That's what it does, provided you exercise them. But you can't exercise them if you don't know them. If you don't know them, how can you recognize what law is and what law is not if you don't know what law is in the first place? You will not be able to recognize when it has been violated. I mean, at least that's the good fight. That's the good fight. That's the good part of it, is that what we do is stick our tail between our legs and say, well, they told me so-and-so. You didn't even recognize they just violated your rights blatantly. And the problem we have as Moors, as natural aboriginal people in our own land and state, is that we do not know the law. We do not recognize when we've been violated. So this has caused a long-term, generational, dysfunctional group, society of people that can do nothing but bitch, moan, and complain, and never did once try to defend, exercise, because you don't have to really defend them, exercise their rights because they didn't know them. And so what I'm saying is, if we had known them and was doing that all along, how much more powerful would we be, because we would have taught our children that even if they didn't. And so they wouldn't be in these situations. We wouldn't be in these situations. Now everybody has gotten so used to, going out, doing this, having fun, whatever like that. Not that you can't have fun, please don't get it wrong, but they don't recognize their obligation. And so now it's crunch time, and they all want to, some, not all, but many who are serious are going to get this, because it's really for those who have eyes to see and ears to listen, and that is the generation coming up. I mean, this is why we're doing and archiving it, because even if, you don't get it today because you seem like you're all too wrapped up, or your life journey doesn't take you down the road to go ahead and exercise them, the younger generation can. They have less fear of it, for the most part anyway. So now, what I'm saying, and how I want to encapsulate that part, and then I want to go into corporal and incorporeal hereditaments, and that brings you into mother again. But here, Article 6. I was going to read just the one part, but I'm going to read the whole thing because it makes sense. It's not that long. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before. Did you hear the word before? Before the adoption of this Constitution. So that means you was existing before this Constitution, because this Constitution was written to bring their asses into the fold of government on your land. So all debts and engagements that entered into before the adoption of this Constitution. Now, what does that mean when it says adoption? It means they didn't establish or create it. They adopted it. Adopted it from what? Ancient Moorish, ancient principles. That's why they say it's the oldest document or the most ancient, but at the same time it's only 300 years old. So all of the debts, engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall, and let me go back. Who adopted it? Modern Europeans. But all of them shall be valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. So that's still going on. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof. Now, let's stop right there. because people think laws can be made. Well, yes, if there was a Congress that didn't walk out and send a deer in 1861, then laws could be made. But there are none made since that walkout. How do you know? Because if you read the Constitution, it'll tell you that none can be made if Congress is adjourned. And it's been adjourned since 61 because that was us. We kind of left them there and they were bankrupt then. They've been bankrupt. All right. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made which shall be made. But none's going to be made now, because that's another thing. A lot of people think that U.S.A can make a treaty. That's ridiculous. They cannot. If you go into this Constitution, it tells you in Article 1, Section 9 and 10, what a state can do and what a state cannot do. And one of the things they cannot do is make treaties. Many of the things they cannot do, but that's one of them. So, that is made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. So they're saying, all right, we got this Constitution. It is the supreme law of the land. And if any other laws were made that would be added pursuant to this Constitution, then that would be included as the supreme law of the land. What's happening is they're telling you they're making laws in Congress even unto today, and they're not. It's just
also there's a key in that many people miss. Any treaties that would be made under the authority of the United States, not the United States of America.
That's exactly. But people don't know the difference. Look, I didn't know the difference before I started studying and getting into this. I didn't, and it took me a minute to discern the two because the usage was so loose, like USA, America. And everybody thinks that's all the same thing, and it's not. So, thanks. That's a good point to point out. Under the authority of the United States, not the United States of America, shall be the supreme law of the land. And now here's the part that this article right here ties everything in. I call it 369. It ties in Article 3 of this Constitution, which is the area that deals with judicial authority. So it encapsulates it here by saying, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. I mean, they're bound to this Constitution. Here's the part that we like. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state that is to the contrary to this Constitution, it has no standing. And that's what they've been doing all day long. Why? Because they know you didn't read this. You don't understand this because you didn't read it. You don't know where you are in it because you don't know nothing about it, because they made sure you didn't, because they taught you and your babies. So then it goes into the senators and representatives before mentioned, how they are dealt with, and the members of the several state legislatures. So it's telling you right there, you know, there's only three parts to government: executive, judicial, legislative. That's the group that makes law, which would be the Congress, proper. Not today, because they're not proper. None of it's proper. There's no Congress going on. We walked out in 1861. And then you have the executive. What is the executive? The executive can only execute laws. They can't make laws. And what is the executive branch? Who's the president of the executive branch?
Currently, that would be Barack Obama. And after January, when he takes his oath, it's supposed to be Donald Trump.
That's not going to happen, no, trust me. Honey, I got to tell you about that in a minute. It's something else.
It doesn't matter whether it happens or not.
We don't even care. That's right. They're not our president anymore. Point being made.
We need to be concerned with our stuff.
Exactly, because the executive branch is the United States of America. The President of the United States of America, the executive branch, because they split it up so that you could have a separation of powers. That's why it's split up. See, and so some people say, well, they're making laws now, but they're really not laws. Well, they're doing what they want to do because you're not doing what you're supposed to do and enforce this, especially against those who violate it. It doesn't mean it's too late. It means that this has got to go down because it didn't change. The Constitution is a written document. As such, it cannot be altered. Well, of course, they altered it, but it ain't the organic Constitution that they put in front of you. It's something else. But how would you know if you didn't read it? You wouldn't know. So now, so again, and keep in mind, the executive branch means only to execute the existing law or any law that would be made. But none has been made since 1861. Ain't nothing coming down as law. And if it did come down as law, the executive branch, which is the United States of America, which comprises of all the Union states, which is the modern European family, and the president at this time is Barack Obama, they can only execute law, period. They can't come. You can't come into these venues talking about we just passed a law last night and you violated. It's not a law. And so you have to go to Article 1 to see how laws or bills, because really the amendments are Bill of Rights, how they are promulgated, how they're made, presented as an idea, not bound, overruled by 2/3 the Senate and the legislature, all that, and even if the president don't want it, all that being true. However, it can't be done if Congress is adjourned, and it is. So the senators and the representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislators, because they're talking to states, and all executive and judicial officers. So they're tying in Article 3, which deals with judicial officers. They're tying in the executive branch as well and the legislator. Both, and it says here, the executive and judicial officers, both of the United States. This is another part and A where you could clearly see that the United States and the Union States are two different things, because it's right here again. It says both of the United States and of the several states shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. So there you go. Here it is. They're bound by oath and affirmation to support the Constitution. If they're not doing that, then they're not supporting the Constitution. So who's the ones that's the criminals committing treason, right? And it says, and of the several states. This is very, very important to read and see what it's saying. Both the United States and of the several states shall be bound by oath or affirmation. Now, the first act of Congress when this Constitution was adopted by them and then put into effect was for everybody to take the oath. They had to take, that's the first thing that must be done. You see them doing that when they elect supposedly their little officers and, their little public trustees. The first thing they do is talk about, we're going to support the Constitution. Now you got to ask them, what Constitution are you talking about? They're not supporting this. They're trying to abolish. They can't abolish it, but they're ignoring it until it becomes convenient for them. Well, guess what, people? Suddenly the Constitution of this land has become of grand interest to most all modern Europeans, and ought be to you too, because they will enforce this Constitution, especially under the circumstances of, what do you want to call them? What's the word I want to give Trump? He's just a troglodyte, a true troglodyte. He is so uncouth, all right? They're all upset. They are ready to support this Constitution. They'll support it before you will. And then it says no religious test shall ever be required. And then you got the damn president of the United States of America, which is not your president, talking about he don't like Muslims and he don't like Mexicans and trying to appoint a state attorney general that has spoken against Muslims and Islam, and every Muslim is a terrorist. So this is where these people who don't know law and don't know that this is a time when you've got to pull up your bootstraps and be right on point, that because he's saying they don't like Muslims and they believe that all Muslims are terrorists, right? And people are saying, yeah, well, don't you know they get ready to make Moors a terrorist group? Please, they tried to do that before, and they can't because all Muslims are not terrorists. It's not going to fly the way people think it's going to fly because it can't. Because even some of them know that. That's why they're protesting him, for many other reasons as well. So, no religious test shall be required as a qualification to any office of public trust under the United States. Just calculating what we just were saying and how important it is for you to enforce the Constitution. Now, if you did it, and I did it, and she did it, and we did it, and everybody did it, it is done. Islam. Let's see this.
Islam. And you know what? Just another thing, because if you read the Constitution, study it, analyze it, and embody it, meaning, a lot of people, they know the Constitution intellectually, but it has yet to drop down into their heart. Your head and your heart must be in harmony. You can't have it just in your head, because when you have it, when that principle, because that's principle, it's principles written down. When you have that in your heart and your head, that's when your energy really changes, and that's when as you're walking through your day, you're repelling any negativity.
Wow.
It won't even find you. It won't even find you. It won't even be a part of your reality, your world, because you're not on that vibration. That is what modern Europeans are terrified of us going back to, part of that. And that's why the prophet said, study, 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 because that's the only way to the place of harmony with your heart and head. All right? But our ancestors left us enough clues, because we got case laws that say, look, if it's not in harmony with the American Constitution, the people can ignore it without impunity. Or with impunity.
Yes, how about that?
Right? That means that nobody can come and attack you, because you have the right to enforce the Constitution, and then they try to say, well, you can't practice law if you don't have a license. Well, these people are not practicing law. They're practicing statutes, ordinances, and codes. But once you step into the arena and you're talking Constitution, well, guess what? They can't talk to you. It's not that you can't talk to them. They can't talk to you.
Wow, that was beautifully said. And when you said not just in your head intellectually, but in your heart, wow, that's powerful also. That is very powerful, because that's the place that you have to get to. And then, people use the term, it's like you wear it on your dial plate and dial it right up. If you don't dial it right up, you can go to it
and
word
that
for
doesn't
word.
mean that you're memorizing. That's not what that means.
Right.
It's gotta be a part of you. It's gotta be in your blood. All right? It doesn't mean that you can quote things word for word, because this is not a walking encyclopedia event. That's not what this is. You need to have the spirit of the law in your heart as well, because that's where spirit will meet you, in your heart, not in your head. But when your head and your heart get together, that's when the spirit shows up.
That's right. You know what? That's right. That is absolutely correct. The spirit of the law must be within. And you can when you've been violated. But if you don't have a foundation of the spirit of law, sometimes you think the way you handle it is really ignorant. It's really unintelligent, and you really don't know what you're talking about. You just know you feel violated, and you don't know how to respond. So sometimes the response is fight, or just, showing what you really are showing is your ignorance to the law when you carry on like that. You know what I mean? and rant and rave and stuff like that. You're showing the ignorance of the law, and that's because you don't have the spirit of the law. That if you did, that's not the way that you would handle it. It's being handled emotionally. And then because they put you under this fake enslavement, well, I won't say fake enslavement because it's been a mental enslavement. There was a period where it was a physical attack, murder. They're still doing that, though. They're still murdering and stuff because that's their intent. In fact, that's their Christian intent. All right? But you.
All right, now, look, it is 4 minutes after 3, and we have not taken a single question.
Well, we decided we had that candid conversation. Well, let me just say this one last thing, and then I guess we could take some calls, I guess.
We don't have to because it is a candid conversation that really needs some concentration.
Well, it does, but if there's someone that has their hand over, I just want to say this last thing. The person is looking for something tangible that people can hold on to, concepts or information. When they see material change or material improvement, something that is tangible and evident, not just talk, he say, she say, or this group of people or conscious Moors over there were saying this or saying that. Well, your rights are both tangible and intangible. Your liberties, your property, your inheritance is tangible and intangible. Tangible are the things you can see and you can touch. Intangible is where your rights are. You can't necessarily see them or touch them. So they're called corporeal, not corporation now, corporeal and incorporeal. Your rights rest in the incorporeal, and that's where you have the obligation. And also your obligations rest in the incorporeal. And as far as material and things to hold on to, it's everywhere. Stop running from here, there, and the other place and sit down and really study the subject matter and understand inheritance and hereditaments because they all come from your mother. And that is the key as to what all of this is doing, taking it away from the mother and not injecting the mother in it, which is their intent, because that is where your true birth rights and inheritance come from. Islam. Are you there? Did you mute? Oh, that dropped out.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Did you do the mute thing again?
I muted you.
Yeah. Are you able to, is there anyone who has it? They might just have a comment or whatever, and then, or is there anyone on the board?
Hold on, let me just get back into my computer. Because I know you didn't.
No, I didn't, but I could. Do I need to?
No. I can get in there real quick.
Just check it and see. And, and while you're doing that, I do just want to make a comment on one other thing. We covered the Alley, and Day. And also, they were talking about can we make amendments to the Zodiac Constitution, which I thought was incredible because it has everything in it that you need already. That's like people wanting to amend the proclamations. For what? Principles do not change. And the other thing is, and we covered everything, reestablishing the authority of the continental flag. Whoever said that it wasn't established, it has never gone out of its position. It's just that the people are not recognizing it and standing under it, as well as they're not necessarily been standing under the flag of the people, which is the red flag with the 5-pointed green star, smack dab in the middle. Anything else is not the flag. And again, the flag of the people and the continental flag with the cedar tree on it, representing everlasting life, is the flag of the continents because we are continental and international. We are the Moors who are the mothers and fathers of civilization on the entire planet. We just need to stand under the signs and symbols because man must learn by signs and symbols. And as a short example, someone asked us about this website. We went right to it, who was talking all kinds of stuff, getting the people to follow under them or whatever. And as soon as we saw a symbol that they had with the sword over the star, 5-pointed star, which represents the mother's child, the crescent moon and the star, the crescent moon is mother and the stars are children. So you've typically seen the sword over the head of the mother in some of the Masonic orders and their fezzes. A Moor doesn't have anything on his fez like that. But now you see your own people with a sword over the star, which means he's trying to cut off the head of the mother's posterity, all right, which is the children forevermore. So we knew right away, wrong symbol, wrong sign, don't go with it. This is what we mean by man must learn by signs and symbols. There's an article on the front page of the RVBey publications right now. It may go on the Food for Thought page soon, but it is there to explain that. So you'll see it there or on Food for Thought. Islam.
What did you say before that? Never mind. I remember.
About
he asked, the question was, can they make additions to the Zodiac Constitution? Here's the thing.
Yeah.
First of all, and we also have had questions regarding the Constitution, like these modern Europeans are doing now. But here's the thing. How many of us have enforced what CMBay has there already?
Oh, no, they were told by the temples to see
because
out. That it's a lie.
No, because here's the thing. What CMBay wrote in that Zodiac Constitution, many of us haven't even used in many of our writs or even enforced lawfully, and many of us don't even get why that Zodiac Constitution is there and how it is to be used. I only just, got clear about it a couple of weeks ago after, 8 years of studying? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about altering it or adding to it? Problem. Big problem.
Yes.
The other thing that I do want to touch on is, oh my gosh, I hope I can find it because it was hold on. Yes, but I want to read it.
Stuff.
Yes, I want to read the. Here we go. Is there a Moorish free Masonic fraternity in place minus the blood oath? The reason for it is, I realize it's my responsibility to know Freemasonry, and I'm getting tired of running across Freemasons who are hitting me up with codes and hand signals, and me not knowing how to respond. I want to say this: a Freemason is a free mother's son.
Yes.
A Freemason is not a code, a handshake, or a signal. All right? You are already a Freemason because you are a mother's son. That's what Mason means. You are my son. You are my son. You are a Freemason. That's what that means. Knowing handshakes and gestures and signals, and how to give the grip, and that's not a Freemason. So there's no need for a Masonic fraternity because that is modern European ideology. But then if you was reading the Prophet's work, you would know he said he's taking the covers off of all of these secret societies because guess what? They are never necessary.
Well, fraternity means a man's club.
Well, there you go.
A sorority is for women, and a fraternity is for men. So
you're still looking at that club.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things wrong with that, as you already pointed out. But first, earlier was, I don't want to get into the clubism, but you're looking for a fraternity. I mean, it's a contradiction. But more than that, what they're really seeking for in their heart is the information, without realizing that the information is universal science, the science of the universe, which is what the zodiac represents as well. Excuse me. And had forgotten that we taught the modern Europeans these sacred or secrets of the universe in the Iroquois, people say Iroquois, but it's pronounced Iroquois, longhouses or lodges right here on this land. And then they took and created the Mother Lodge for their Masonic order, and they are trying to keep those things secret, which is the reason why they use the hand signal. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So if maybe they didn't know that, so maybe by clearing it up for them and anyone else who may be thinking along these lines, because they really think that if they don't, they either think they got to get into fraternity, and we just explained what that is, or they think that they have to get into a temple. And if the temples were run the way in which the prophet meant for them to be, hey, that would be great. But they've been sold out a long time ago. They were infiltrated. Everybody knows that. I think everyone knows that now. And all they have left is to hold on, walk around with their mantles on, not teaching civics, because especially if they're a 501c, which most of them turn into, they can't speak civics and law because the 501c is a Christian organization. So how in the hell can you say that you are a Moor and then go under the jurisdiction of a Christian corporation? And when I say Christian, I don't mean that if you're a 501c, you're a church. I mean they're Christians, and everything they do is from their perspective, and everyone should have read the Indica Terra Divina, which means their divine intent, and their divine intent is to turn everybody into Christianity. And they said they were told by their God that if you don't convert, that they have a right to kill you. So why would anyone go and get under their jurisdiction of a 501c? And let me add this. I also got an email, forgot to mention it, we could talk about it another time, but it just comes through because the guy is in, not Barbados, somewhere in South America, in the islands, and they just wrote to me, and they were saying that, there was on the news that what's happening in America, as if South America is not America, because of the colonization and division of our national domicile. They got people believing that these corporations are the land when they're not. So they were saying what's happening in America, not going to happen here. We're going to be Christians or something like that. And I was shocked. I got it this morning, and I meant to mention it, but I got so many that I let that one slip. I'm going to send that to you, and that's something to talk about too. So it is not a secret that they are Christians, but you can't be a Christian. So I said that to say that if the temples are a 501c, it is an extreme conflict. They're not really supposed to be talking civics. I know people who went into the temples to be, a grand sheik or whatever like that, and this person actually was a very good astrologer, and they told him that he could not teach astrology. So there you go. But yet, if you read religious controversy that the prophet himself wrote, you'll see in there, he says, although the sun hangs at high noon, they comprehend it not. Right in the religious controversy writing. So, and not just that, but everything he did, the crescent star, moon, the pyramid was on his paperwork. The Great Seal, was on his paperwork. But, they don't tell you that. They cover all that up, and then you got some Grand Sheiks talking about their prime ministers of the Moorish nation. How in the hell are you going to be a Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple and be a prime minister, which is a British title? And that goes hand in hand with the same group that incorporated Moorish nation. So you got to be really careful now. You have to qualify when you say that you are of the Moorish nation. You need to say of the Moorish nation proper, and not and say no, not of the Moorish nation incorporated. Because we were getting emails And then the president said, well, is RVBey of the Moorish nation? I'm like, of course, under the most divine national movement of the world. And they thought that I was under this group called the Moorish Nation, Incorporated. So somebody incorporated the Moorish Nation, and that's extremely asinine. And, so you got to be real careful now about saying that you're a part of the Moorish Nation. And make sure you clear it up, because they have a lot of people coming in new. Then when you say Moorish Nation, they think you're talking about Moorish Nation Incorporated, including these courts who have made some so-called case laws against those members who have come in with the incorrect jargon. And, it's interesting because they won't deal with the true case laws and res judicata that exist already, but they'll love to blast out the Moors that come in who don't know law, trying to defend or exercise their rights and don't know what they really are and have the wrong words, because jurisdiction means right words. Juris is right, diction is words. So, anyway. But, yeah, we covered that about, I'm glad you didn't forget about the fraternity, because I had just seen it and was saying, wow, we got to hit on that right now.
All right. Well, we got Ms. Raheem. Huh?
Is there anybody with their hands up?
We got, you're starting off with Ms. Raheem Aleph Il in the house. Islam.
Peace
Hey,
and love.
about Mason. All right, Mason.
Yeah, I heard y'all. Y'all was going in. Definitely glad to. It's been a minute since I called in on Sister Standing on Law, but y'all was definitely rocking it. And I missed like the first 15 minutes, but it sounded like you was talking about, somebody was talking about the identity cards. And I don't want to take you back because the energy y'all built was really great. But in closing, just 360, it sounded like somebody, you were saying you got some new emails this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm...
Well, it's simple. They said that, the only tribes are recognized, and so we have to have false identifications representing indigenous people is a felon, and selling them for money, to the indigenous people. Oh, and also using the Great Seal. Just because you're using the Great Seal don't mean it's official. So I was like, well, what's the official? Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I definitely just wanted to be briefed on it. I don't want you to go back too far.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say I heard y'all talking about paid agents on the internet. That is a fact. That is definitely a fact.
I think you are.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a fact. It's not a buffer. They have military operations just for that. You know what I mean? And then some of these people are openly military, spewing their disdain for, Aboriginal thought. But I just wanted to say that, we're Aboriginal indigenous. That's a fact. We all know that. For anybody who's still in that sleep state, that Maya, if you will, or illusion, that we're not Aboriginal indigenous, and that not just that we are Aboriginal indigenous, with nationality, there is political ramifications, meaning that we have that right to self-identify. At this particular point in time, we have to remain fortified, and vivified in our position as nationals, seeing that we are not, we have a different status or estate than the modern Europeans or the pilgrims that are on this land, specifically, i.e. your Donald Trumps, Hillary Clintons. These are all European pilgrims. We are not the same. So we have a different political status. When you look at nationality, it also determines the political status of a being. I have my identification card, and they tried to say that, they tried to charge me with fraud for that. And I beat that. And sued jurists, like no fraud charges or anything like that stuck. So what I'm saying is there's a maxim in law that he who stands on his own right can never be guilty of a fraud. It's a fraud for a European pilgrim to act as if they are American And then, and I mean that from, the definition of Aboriginal or any one of the various copper complexion people or the lineal descendants of these people, which are all the same, but for the European to assume the role of an American or Al-Moroccan identity and then turn around and tell the Al-Moroccan or American people, Moors, that they cannot establish or their own identifications. People who are talking like that are still mental slaves. That's slaves talk. Stay away from us with that mentality. That's all I'm saying. But my thing is this. Then Anna Eid said, too, about paying child support or lack of paying child support, which led to somebody's so-called driver's license being suspended, which goes to show that there's a racketeering conspiracy, if you will, a color of law conspiracy for a specific system to generate revenue, for those who don't know, meaning that, okay, let's say we know Muslim law is, if somebody can't afford to pay something, you have to let them be able to pay when they can. You know what I mean? Not to overbear their due, but that's what it is. You know what I mean? Everybody can't at the time. Christian laws, if you can't pay, you go to jail. So the thing is, they have a conspiracy system, whereas, okay, if you didn't pay your child support, we're going to alert all of our, highwaymen, our soldiers in blue suit. You know what I mean? In blue suit. That's another camouflage, because people think just because they're not in camouflage fatigues and things like that, that's not a military uniform. That's a military uniform. That you could go back to when it was the red coats versus the blue coats. But what I'm saying is the highwaymen in blue suits in your local area, well, I don't even want to say local area, but what they're calling, cities, towns, these highwaymen employed for them, when they put on that blue suit, that is a military uniform. That's a fact. So what I'm saying is, if you don't see it like that, they're in camouflage to you in your face. So what I'm saying is that because again, like how we was talking about, in the Declaration of Independence, these same pilgrims were saying that, people have the right to break away from any so-called government or throw it off when the tyranny becomes, excessive, etc. So we see that in their forms of identifying people, meaning that, our ancestors had RVBey, right? Because identity, the foundation of all of this, the foundation of the divine and national aspect is identity. You know what I mean? And it's deep. It's deep from your collective or our collective identity to individuals. This is all about identity. So when they say as a people we are black, that's a fraud. You know what I'm saying? Because that's obviously not true. We could talk to our people from anywhere, and they tell you they don't identify with those words on top of our skins as being simply brown. So my thing is the identity factor when you're talking about people who are saying, no, we're exercising our self-determination, and there's nothing that a pilgrim can actually convince us of to say, that there's a wrong in that at all, or make us feel guilty, or slave-minded, Negro-minded, Moor, who's trying to come like that. That means they're still on that plantation. They're in that paradigm of if the master said it ain't cool, it ain't cool. They will not fight for anything that's liberating, not just for themselves, but for the people collectively. So what I'm saying is they'll charge you 48 notes for your driver's license for 8 years, right? But you're thinking that's one action, but let's do fail on a contract or something else with somebody else. They'll attach it to that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Meaning that's an open portal for all types of martial attacks, Martian attacks, or you know what I mean? Foreign pilgrim attacks. That's what that is. The driver's license is a portal for that. So you have to know that, and if you're not willing to, stand on your allodial position, because the remedy for us is standing and being fortified in our allodial status. You know what I mean? Like that's what's gonna help ridicule the mental slavery, or eradicate the mental slavery. But that will come from studying. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to ramble on, but I was back in the law books for the past 4 days, and I'm high right now. You know what I'm saying? I've been, going in with the history and the visuals and the writing, but it's like, law and history go together, but I could say I was jabbing my left arm. I need to work out my right, or vice versa. So that's the benefit from law and history, blending them together. So my thing is this, you know what I mean? We have to be fortified and know thyself, like in who we are and who they are not. You see these people on the tube, they're talking crazy, like, and we're talking about pilgrims, talking about in the lands of America, Northwest of Mexico, they're talking like they want people to leave their country and get out of my country. This is the language that some of them are using, but the sad part about it is these are people in so-called positions of power for the Christian, agenda. And that's what they stand on. But I just wanted to speak on something because you had mentioned that somebody was asking about fraternal orders, and knowing about secret handshakes and things like that. You nailed it. But my thing is this. You nailed it. We are, in fact and indeed, that's in our blood, Freemasonry, not free and accepted Masonry. We're talking sublime thought, mathematics, astrology, cosmology. We are the founders of that. All of that came from us. I'm not talking about a handshake, and I'm not saying this just for promotional, but this is a fact. The video, Wisdom from RVBey 4, has me looking at certain things in a different light, not that I didn't before. It's on Mantis Views 29 and on the homepage. But my thing is this. The reason I say that, if you're trying to go through, some sort of ritual to prove your allegiance or anything like that, it should solely be based off of your connection to the law of nature, meaning that in that video she was explaining how she was coming amongst the bees and they were not stinging her. That supersedes any organized, acknowledgement or initiation. When your initiation or showing and proving thyself is coming directly from nature. You know what I mean? Your connection to nature, the lack of fear to do that. So right now, I'm looking at it like a lot of people's, quote unquote status is in question in certain aspects, because on these so-called social medias and things like that, people are just putting on fezzes and claiming to be sheiks, claiming to be in the Moor Science Temple of America. And I'm like, I know sheiks are born, not made, but where's the proof of that background? Where is your proof of connection to nature? These people can't even stop a rabbit on call. You feel what I'm saying? Let alone come amongst bees. And I'm not suggesting anybody do that to try to prove something. I'm just saying that there is certain certain aspects of showing and proving. Not that you have to do that to prove you're valuable, but what I'm saying is beyond a piece of paper, you know what I mean? What's your connection with nature? Because natural law is the supreme law of the land. Nature will show and prove. Nature will protect you. So my thing is, with people who's talking crazy like that, with no, like, where's your proof? That's all I'm saying. Just prove, show and prove that you are what you claim to be. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Show and prove to me, because if we born not made, you have to have a certain connection with nature. Meaning, even if you can't call a rabbit to you, can you make it stop? Things like that, you know what I mean? But let me not go too in, because, they say you got the rabbit up the sleeve and things like that.
Actually. Yeah, we do have a couple of the callers. We do have a couple of the callers line. I just want to say this one thing.
On that.
Yes, and I just want to say this one thing. A lot of the signs and symbols are natural movements of the body anyway, and the biggest one that we know of and use is when you do Islam and you put your hand to your heart, as out of sincerity coming from your heart. So I just wanted to add that. And, well, we're going to talk another time, and you can, not this time because there's other callers, but when you were talking about your Sejuris thing, when I remember that you had put in a writ or told the magistrate to, why does he assume that you are black? And you put it in a question to be answered by the courts. Of course, they never answered it. But you let them know you're assuming I'm black. And there's no assumptions in law. So
there's assumptions in law. There's no facts with that. There's no facts with that. But I'm gonna yield the floor with this.
All right.
For anybody anymore who's looking to learn hand signals and things like that, I would say start with what's already open on the record, meaning that none of it is really secret, but learn the mudras first. Like if you're yearning to learn that, learn what's already available for you. And I'm not saying that to deter anybody or suggest anybody do anything, you know what I mean, or get initiated in anything. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that there's mudras of Asiatics, meaning you can learn those through yoga, studying yogic texts, things like that. Get familiar, and, you know, all these other things will come on to you. So my thing is, you know, seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave, but be yourself. Don't sell yourself out, and that's just what it is. And I say peace and love, big acknowledgement to you both, all the sisters standing on law, MHHS, sisters standing on law, eyes wide open, etc. And great class tonight. Thank y'all for allowing me to add on. I mean,
thank
today.
You.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right. Oh, last thing, my very last thing. On the driver's license note, think about it like this. When Dr. Sabi was talking about the passport, and they asked him if he had one, and he asked them, is it African? Now, we know these are Moors, but when he said, okay, if it's not African, why would I have one? That is the mentality, you know what I mean, that we need to really comprehend in that aspect. And with that, I say I yield the floor, and peace and much love.
All right. Peace and love to you, too.
All right. All right. Our next caller is Giassi Bey. Islam.
Giassi. Oh, the soldier.
Islam, mothers. I just wanted to camel back on what Ms. Rahim, because he was absolutely on point. The initiation to being a Mason you get from your mother. That's that 9 months you go through. That's your initiation. As far as all the information that the Masons carry, it's all over the place. It's in the libraries and everything like that. So you don't need to join a fraternity in order to be that which you already are. That's like going to school to be a male if you're a male, or going to school to be a female if you're a female. It's just to know what you are and who you are. And as far as what he said about nature, they're trying to disconnect you from nature just like they're trying to disconnect you from your nation. That's like the body. Suppose the spleen decided it didn't want to be part of the body. If you take the spleen outside of the body, it will not survive. Although you cannot disconnect yourself from nature, if you tried to disconnect yourself from nature, it would be to your detriment. So that's kind of ridiculous anyway, but I didn't call for that. This is just for those who don't know what human trafficking is, because somebody asked me what was human trafficking. So maybe if you guys could explain that.
We just,
human trafficking is anything relative to a flesh and blood being that is being exchanged for income, a demand for income. So the driving instrument, for anyone who is not a chauffeur and you're being compelled to get one, that's human trafficking, because you have to give them income to get it, and then they will use that to tell you to trick you into giving them continuous income, and it's based off of the fact that you exist. And a perfect example of that is in some of these union states, if you have a driving instrument, the county corporation will send you a tax bill. Now, they don't do nothing for you, but they will send you a demand for income. It's called a tax bill, but it's a demand for income. That's human trafficking. If you go anywhere and they say, I need a birth certificate for you to engage in any type of a commercial activity, open a bank account, enter your child into school, that's human trafficking. Because what a mother says is all that counts. And then they like to say, well, we need to make sure that, you know, they try to put it in terms of, well, we're making sure that you're safe. You could never, that's not your responsibility, and I didn't hire you to do that. So, no, that's not your job. And then they might say, well, we need to make sure that nobody has kidnapped your child. But their very action is a kidnapping of the child, the essence, a portion of the essence of the child. But if the mother is there or a family member, then they can vouch that that is the child. And even if there is no vouching, was there a complaint that a child matching this description is missing? You know, so anytime that they try to impose something on people in exchange for income, that's human trafficking. The passport, that's human trafficking. Driving instruments, that's human trafficking. The birth certificate, social security card, all of these things, people ask you for it. We're not going to engage in any kind of business or activity or interchange with you unless you have them. That's human trafficking. None of those things are free. That's human trafficking. Well, outside of the social security card. So that's human trafficking. And even if it is free, it's still human trafficking because that doesn't identify you. You can identify yourself if you're competent, and if you're of age, right? Now, if you're not of age, then they shouldn't be talking to you.
That's right. They should be talking to your mama.
So it all goes back to mother, right? They tried to. You have to understand that all of this is about interjecting a substitute mother in the form of a corporation. That's what it's all about.
You're in traffic.
So, we have another caller. Let's see.
Thanks, Yasi.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Question.
All right, Brother Bukhari. Islam.
All right. Islam.
Islam. Greetings, mothers. Thank you for another wonderful show. I know this is Sister Standing on Law, but your topics and your breakdown and explanation of these various topics today was just outstanding because you were discussing these issues that once you start looking into them, there are questions that are coming up that need answers, and so I thank you for that. The other thing that I would like to share with everyone is that I am an individual that has, prior to coming into Moorish science, as a result of human trafficking and the child support system that is running rampant throughout northwestern Mexico and much of the world, on numerous occasions when I was not able to pay their fees, I, of course, again, prior to Moorish science, had the driver's license suspended, and the system is so unfair. It is just blatantly unfair. But the reason that it is maintained is because of the ignorance of the masses in believing in a system that is run by foreigners and maintained through statutes and codes. And so that is how they do a lot of what they do, because we are ignorant, because we have been brought up in schools and we have no concept of what is right or wrong, truthfully. We have a veiled concept of what is right and what is wrong based on what we learn in school, what we see on television, et cetera, et cetera. So not only did I have that situation occur, but throughout that entire process, from start to finish, there's no one of the things that I'm trying to say here, and I'll try to be brief, is that there's no real oversight into the system. There's only the ability for them to capture your wages or what we perceive as income, and then force you to be detained when you don't comply. But there is no true management, in terms of how the fiat is being spent by the individuals that are receiving it. There's no concern as to what happens when you have a father that can't afford to live decently. There's no concern for that. If you have to live in your car, then that's the way it's going to be. So, furthermore, right, exactly. So these are the things that occur on a daily basis, and so there is no balancing of justice. And so I'm also an individual who had a passport that was suspended because of child support. So I know what you're talking about. That happened to me. Furthermore, I had an opportunity when that occurred to I literally went through an interview and a background check process with a major corporation, and I've already mentioned this at two or three times before on the show. But I went through this process and was hired by this corporation, and it was a six-figure paying job overseas. And and I'm not saying this. I have documentation to corroborate what I'm saying here. And I was not allowed to take this job, as it were, because of child support.
Wow. That is really
and so, yes, and so I have been trying to deal with this, and this is one of the issues as to why I have been in such a funk in the past 3-4 months, because I have been struggling with trying to figure out what do I need to do to address this.
Well, did they consider it as a crime? Did they say that because you committed a crime? Is that how they saw it?
No. Here's how it happened. I went through the testing phase and background check phase with this corporation, and the last thing was you get the passport updated if you already have one, or you get a new passport, and so you go and now you have to pay to get the passport. And so what happened is 2 weeks later I received a letter from these individuals who are, again, descendants of foreigners on our ancestral estate, who basically stated, we can't issue you a passport because you are in arrears for child support.
Wow,
and
they
so
try to lock
child support.
Was that a municipal corporation that said that?
Yes.
Wait a minute.
The
person who sent you the letter, is that from a municipal corporation?
That yeah.
Or is that from a federal? Or is that from the federal government, or is that from a municipal corporation?
Well, I really can't answer that right now. Now that you mention it, but I will tell you, it was sent to me from the individuals that issue the passport.
Well, they're corporations too, because you don't need to have a passport.
But they are corporations, yeah.
Yeah.
So well, I would love to be able to. I don't have a problem with doing that because I have, been sending out forms of writs long before Moorish, long before I proclaimed and declared my nationality. But I want to mention a couple of other things. I would love to be able to do that. I just want to be able to know that before I pull the trigger on doing that I have certain steps ironed out so that once I initiate it, I can go through it, without any hiccups. And I've, reached out to others, and it's just not happening. And so, because I'm not sure of what needs to be done, and I've been doing research, and one of the other things that I want to say, one of the things that I want to say here is that as it pertains to Masonry, so many of I love you guys so much because you don't just talk, you investigate things, you see, and you have mature discussions, and that's why I really respect you so much, and that word is very key, is respect. I respect you for your analytics, for your ability to look into the law, look into facts and break things down. And one of the things that I recognize, because when I was in the military, again, before Moorish science, I was recruited into a lodge. And I want to let everyone know that 2 years after being in that lodge, I said goodbye. I said, I can't do this anymore because, even again, and I have to qualify this, even before Moorish science, I was in the lodge telling people that the information that they are disseminating to the masses is not their own. It's not their ancient ancestral bloodline. They did not, come up with, all of this information by themselves. And one of the things that I noticed is that there is a mentality that the individuals were, I can't speak for nationally or nationwide or internationally, but I'm speaking of Moors who don't know that they're Moors. There is a mentality that they are subordinate to the European. And what do I mean by that? And that meant, well, here's what I mean by that specifically. It is how they conduct business. It is how they talk to the European. I had the opportunity to visit what is called the Grand Lodge. The Grand Lodge is a lodge where all of the modern Europeans and all of the Asiatics in Masonry get together and have certain functions at certain times. The Grand Lodge and all of the European lodges are opulent beyond, they have land, they have marble, they have shelves and books and libraries and different rooms. They have a docking portion in the back of the lodge so that they can receive products, etc. Now you go to a so-called Black Lodge or Prince Hall Lodge, and it's like an old home that was built in the 1930s that has been renovated into a lodge. There's no acreage, there's or it's a small building. And this is pervasive nationally. And so, but the mentality of the individuals that are running, that was running this lodge when I was in it, it was pathetic because when I came in, I wanted to know that we were going to, somebody's going to be teaching me how to be a better man, how to be successful in business, how to mature and, things that I can utilize to, benefit me 20, 30, 40 years down the line. I did not get into, from what I was told when they recruited, because I didn't ask to be in, I was recruited to be in. And so once I, what they were telling me prior is that, well, this is for, brothers and and we're going to, it's about good, mature people, and we're going to be doing good things. You're going to learn about business, and, you're going to learn about a law. You're going to learn about many things. And, yes, we have secrets, but it's, just for the, people who are doing well in the community. And most of the, individuals that are in Masonry are doctors, attorneys, lawyers, people of high standards that are educated. Well, that's not what I found out when I got into the lodge. You see what I'm saying? What I was exposed to was the total opposite of that. Like there wasn't brothers, trying to tell me, what I need to do to open up a business. I found, that there were people that were selling drugs. People were trying to sleep with each other's wives. People were alcoholics. And, now I'm not saying this is every lodge.
It's everywhere.
Right. And now I'm not saying that this is every lodge. All I'm saying that was the lodge that I was in, and it was backstabbing. People were just concerned about positions that they could hold. Everybody wants to be the worshipful master. People were, were only concerned about, how many little stickers that they could put on the back of their vehicle, and it was just pathetic. There's no way that an individual, yes, there, and I want to say this because there's so many topics that you guys breached, but from my perspective, I was in what is called as a military lodge. There is no way that a man can become a master mason in 90 days. It's not possible. It is not possible. And furthermore, even 3 years, if you're in another type of lodge, is really stretching it, but that's what they do. And so these, and now you have individuals who literally, dropped out of high school, or even if they, graduated high school, because of the way that schools are perpetuated in this land, and how they are teaching us coming out of certain infrastructures in the inner city, you're really not educated in the several liberal arts and sciences. And, so when you get to these institutions as an adult, whether it's through the military or through some other so-called civilian capacity, you're not even fully mature mentally in terms of reading, writing, math, etc. Because that is supposed to be one of the baselines of Masonry, is that you learn the 7 liberal arts and sciences, and you are proficient in them, you see, so that you can become someone who can teach, someone that can lead, or someone who can give instruction to the youth and to the other brothers that are coming in. And so when I saw the joke, I said, see ya. And even up until 2 years ago, I still had individuals that would see me from time to time and say, what happened to you? And why don't you come back to the lodge? And I'll never go back to that nonsense. I'll never go back to that because I didn't go in, for those types of things. And so why am I saying all of this? Because of the points that you guys breached today, because so many of our people don't have the right concepts going in. That's why they're so easily hoodwinked. And then when they do learn what is right from wrong, by that time, they usually have a whole bunch of fiat invested into this nonsense, and then they just, don't want to back up, and they don't want to, or they don't have the character to say, this is what's right. And so I just wanted to share those things with you guys. I really respect you. Keep doing what you're doing because you're waking up a lot of people. Islam.
Islam. Wow.
All right, Islam. Well, we got about not even a minute left. That concludes Sister Standing on Law. Make sure and check us back here next month on the 18th of December. Tuesday for Principles of Nationality, and Wednesday will be Sister Carew at the National Theater.
This Wednesday, no one will be there because it's the 4th Wednesday.
I'm sorry, you're right. No one will be there this Wednesday because of the Holy Day. So we will have either.
No, Abdullah would usually be there on the fourth Wednesday, but because there are 5 Wednesdays in this month, it worked out very well that that he won't be there on the fourth Wednesday, which is this Wednesday, but the 5th Wednesday, the following Wednesday, he will be there, and then the next Wednesday, Sister Carew, and then the next 2 Wednesdays in a row, which is the 2nd and 3rd, will be there.
All righty. That concludes this broadcast.
Hi, I'm Paul. I used to ask if you could hear me now with Verizon, but I switched to Sprint. They changed the game again with unlimited freedom, unlimited mobile optimized streaming videos, gaming, music, and data.